And good evening, everyone, and welcome to PyLadies Dublin this evening. And I hope everyone is keeping chilled because I know how warm it was yesterday, and it's getting a little bit cooler today. And so, what I'll do is I'm going to go through some kind of thank yous thank you to everyone this evening, and thanking the sponsors as well as some events that are coming soon. Um, so let's get to it. Sorry for me being a bit of zombie because of the heat, and also I'm still recovering from Europython last week. So our team, we have Lay this evening and Mick as well, and they're going to help me moderate live chat. But they've been amazing, helping me source speakers and um, especially when I have technical issues, they're there to. They're also helping me, making sure that I don't crumble and cry. So thank you so much. And if anyone wants to come on and help the team, let us know. We are always looking for volunteers to help with, looking for speakers or looking for cool ideas and workshops and things like that. So a huge thanks to PSF, the Python Software Foundation, because we're part of the Meetup Pro network. So our Meetup events are created, so they pay for our Meetup.com kind of event pages and stuff. And also thanks to PyLadies, because without PyLadies Global, we have no PyLadies Dublin. And Coding Grace, because we're using StreamYard to stream so our speakers can actually stream their talks to YouTube, which is live to you right now. And also Trust in Soda, because one of our speakers, that's how we got connected to one of our speakers this evening, who is Samira. And a brief mention, PyLadies was EuroPython, as I mentioned. It was last week. I can't believe it's over. It has been bonkers. We had, so there's a big blank space. I'll show you a wee bit of a video in a minute, but we had a PyLadies lunch last Friday. And it was actually all the tables were taken, and this is only a selection of people we asked who came back up for a group photo because it was during the coffee break. So, but it was also a raffle for Fluent Python by Luciano Romario. I actually have another book up for raffle, but I'll do it at an in-person event in the coming months. So watch out for that. So I can play a quick video if from that Instagram, but there's music on it, so it's going to be a silent video. I can talk your way through it, or maybe not because we're delayed. Hold on a second. Um, so there you go. This is like the social event where we got kind of traditional Irish musicians, and you can see all the European Python folks are having fun, trying to keep up with the Irish dancers. And we had an educational panel, and as you see, at the PyLadies lunch, and then this was like ending with the groups all very, very tired and at the sprints. And that's me I'm just want to highlight this. This is Raquel in the yellow and Chuck, which probably some people have seen from our past PyLadies Dublin in the green shirt. But Raquel has been amazing. First time chairing a huge conference like this. And in my wildest dreams, in my early days of going to tech events, initial days of Python Ireland, I never thought I would find people like myself. So I'm really, really excited, to actually uh, meet all the people at EuroPython and got a chance to work with them. And I hope people, even if you haven't attended EuroPython, I think going to a lot of events kind of open a lot of opportunities. So I would just say, just even if it's not there yet, it'll be worth it in the end. You'll meet, your dreams will come true. So I just want to share that a little bit. Um, so there's a couple of events for this month. So if you're down in Cork, and there's an in-person code and coffee with Girl Develop It at Republic of Cork co-sharing space offices. And then if you want to have a chat with people with the Women in Code up in Belfast in Bites and Brew Online, they're at 8 in the morning. It's on at July 28th. And of course, if I'm missing any diversity or Python events for August, do let me know. I'll add it at the next events. Send an email at dublin@pyladies.com. We're also on Twitter and on Instagram, so you can ping us that way as well. Um, so this evening, so next month in August, we have two talks. One is from Doreen Sacker from she's calling all the way from Germany about reproducible machine learning projects with DVC and poetry, and we have Pitch, who are an Irish team who are working on block building kind of programming tool to help young people to bridge the gap between Scratch to Python. So one of those, I don't know who it is yet, but one of the people from Pitch helped out in Ben North, helped out with Django Girls workshop last Monday, and he also gave a lightning talk about Pitch during EuroPython as well. So I'm looking forward to. I'm very excited for them to come along and actually show you what they've done so far, especially not just the block building, the bridge between Scratch to Python, but also how it connects with like even electronics and stuff. So it's not just pure coding. So it's kind of really exciting as well. And of course, for people watching, do like and subscribe if you haven't already, and tell everyone about it. That would be really helpful. Thank you with the banner. And as well as, so yeah, that's the end of my announcements, and on to our speakers. Now, this evening we have two speakers. One of them can't, what isn't available this evening, so we're gonna set up Samira in a minute, who will give a talk about how to encourage teenagers to programming, and then we'll follow by Ciara, who will talk about supply chain security in open source software, and then we'll follow up if there's any kind of Q&A. We can follow up with that from via live. If anyone has any questions, you can ask via live chat, and Leigh and Michael will pass them on to our speakers. And if we have time left over, that is okay. We can wrap up early because it's nice evening. Why not? And it's quite rare. So we'll be back in a second, and and then we'll kick off our first talk with Samira. So. So Samira, I thought your slides are there. Give me a second.
Yes, this is the slide. I can
Okay,
share
there
my.
you go. And I leave the floor to you, Samira.
Hi guys, thank you. Hi guys, thank you for coming to my talk. Honestly, I'm PhD student on NLP, and for a long time I've been working on development side and machine learning project, but I don't want to talk about them because a lot of people talking about machine learning and nobody's care about teenager, especially teenager girls. I want to talk about my very new experience which lately I had with a 10 years old girl, which start Python from scratch. And I want to share my experience and my challenge. I deal with it and the solution that finally helped Shahkal to release her first game on Google Play. So let's start. Why I want to talk about these subjects? Firstly, I know it's hard to believe, but there is a lots of basics math that teenage doesn't know, and they are necessary for programming. They don't know anything about step-by-step learning. They are always in hurry. They want their achievement as soon as they want. They don't know anything about computer stuff, and also there isn't a lot of research to how teach with teenage and how to learn them and how we deal with them, how introduce new words uh, to them when they are so young and more than young, absolutely. But the things was at the end of the day, they are the future, and we should prepare them for being mature, for skilled enough to came to even open source community and start working and contribute to the societies. So the reason I choose that topic, and also why girls, based on the reports, women's just less than 20% of women working on IT industry in programming side. Then I think all of us we should care about women, and we should have a plan, spend some time to them to encourage them to continue their career, and that's that field which is really new and this the future of the world. And also programming, I think programming needs a lots of skills which help us to learn and manage everything: creativity, problem solving, persistence. I think these skills are lifetime skills, so we should care about girls in programming. But how I start? The first time I met Shahkol, we were on beach and we went for a vacation, and I just talked about my career. We had some competition on beach in swimming, and she told me she wants to learn Python, but she's not happy with her teacher. So I tried to communicate with Shahkol, and when after vacation we start our journey, and I've been a teacher as my contribution to open source society, and train very young girls and learn how to teach her. The first step was she doesn't know anything, and I couldn't tell that's happened. What is programming language? For introducing computer, I use it as an agent, and I told her you should talk with computer in writing side, and is the only way you can communicate with computer, and tell her to do what do you want to do. She learned function, variable, syntax just by funning, but by defining computer as a new stuff, as an agent, not as an object. At this step, Shahkul tried to just try to understand how she learned, and that was the moment. She just want to practice. She didn't want to somebody's teach her how it's what is programming, what is CPU, what is GPU, oh blah 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 blah. She was sick of talking. She wants her idea to using what she learning. I find out learning by doing is the best way to teach Shahkul how to code. But the next step was harder. If for least certain algorithm scripts was my challenge. So we try to define it by a daily activity. Swimming was the best idea for defining if. I said you can if means an statement. It's not an always. You should care about the situation. She learned it and other stuff. Shoe sample was a great idea because she has a lot of shoes in her house. Every session, Shahkul write a sample of what she learned in a script and by some samples, and also in that step, she learned to explain everything to me. She learned, and then I was a student. She teach me, but uh, that next step was how does she want she use what she learned? How can she use that? It's the time. I learned that's lots of. She knows what is computer. She knows the script, E for blah 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 blah. But she wants to define a problem. I told her the best way you can use your new skills is show your friends there are some things you are good at it, and your friend doesn't know anything about it. So the first step was the left picture. She tries to draw without using school's stuff, just by Python. And all the time, as you can see, Shahikal sent her homework to me by email, and that was the moment Shahikal told me, I want to be a game programming. I want to play with my game, with my own game, the game I've designed, not someone else designed for me. It was the She started with Pygame. In the first place, she start with a gardener in a farm. She didn't find any. Uh, uh, it was very easy, very simple things, but she thinks about it. She write it down that what she want to do and how to want to create the the game. How can be started? She likes gardener, and then designed a scene. During the time, learned to how to telling a story, define milestone, and then she noticed Pygame doesn't the good one. So we start working with Unity, define milestone, asset creation, modeling, audio, visual effect. And I totally remember how she was happy every day. She learned new things and run any code on her computer. And finally, 4 months ago, first MVP of Shahkol was released. I hope Shahkol was here and talk about her journey. But unfortunately, Shahkol is in Iran, and the internet it doesn't good work, and it's the time difference doesn't help us to Shahkol attend this. And I want to finish my talk. It's not a very. I don't have lots of time to talking because it was just 15 minutes. In my uh, personal experience, I think it's not easy task to teach the younger people to to work with computer as a programmer. For me, what's a challengeable task? They cannot concentrate on what I'm saying, and they deal with school issues, and uh, they couldn't. At least Shahkol couldn't think algorithmic, which I think is based on our education system. And I learned I should be patient. They never listen to me as easy as I wanted. The other things was they like to teach you what they are learned, not just what they you are said to them. I learned to define small goals, and I'm sure they don't anything about real life. But I think open source community should care about teenage. I couldn't at that moment I couldn't find anything to help me to deal with Shahkol as a person who's working on Python for more than 10 years and deal with a lots of community stuff. I think there isn't any plan for teenage and how to deal with them, how to encourage them, how to solve their issue, how to help them to contribute on GitHub. I honestly, I was worried about Shahkol if she can contribute on GitHub, or there wasn't any safe place to Shahkol to think about how open source community is working. It's just so I will answer your question after that. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, Samira. I think that was brilliant. I think that hits a lot of things. It's always really hard trying to, especially trying to get the attention, especially teens, to code, because I remember one time. Sorry, I'm gonna eat in a little bit of time. I think we have a bit of time before I go to Ciara, but I just want to share this while I still remember. A number of years ago, when I was with Python Ireland, somewhere, I think it was in one of the towns, not in Dublin. They wanted us to come in and help them teach kids coding in Python or help with coding. And there was two age groups. One was under 12s and the other one's over 12s. The under 12s were fine. They were following your instructions, asking lots of stuff, typing really slow, but at least they're trying and they're doing everything. But the main thing was they asked a lot of questions. They're really excited in creating things. But I noticed that when the 12-year-olds upwards, especially the older teens, they're very quiet. They don't say anything. They don't tell you if they come across problems. They just sit there and look very quiet. And you come over, so you need any help? No, I don't. I'm sure you can ask any questions. It's fine. No, it's okay. And they're like trying to type, pretend to type, and they're just really, really shy. And that's how I found the differences as they go past 12. They tend to get very shy and asking for help. And it was kind of the room was absolutely, it was like you could hear a pin drop. It was so quiet. Whereas opposed to the complete, it was mayhem in the morning, but it was really quiet in the afternoon. Uh, and I saw when you said you probably hear me mention pitch. If you go pitch.org, it was like it's to help anyone who's even anyone. It's not just kids. Anyone who just started coding, you can use Scratch to actually understand code, and then it's a huge jump from that to Python, from block to suddenly everything's in text. So they thought that it might be a way to help them create games, especially like with games like I saw Unity here. That is huge. Like I sat in a workshop that I organized because I don't use Unity, but I was listening in and try to follow, and it's a lot to learn Unity in trying to create something. Um,
Yes, Shahkol's progress was awesome, but it was time consuming for me to understand how to teach Shahkol. And the result was good. I wish she was here and she talked about her
mm,
experience, but in my side, it was really challengeable to teach her.
mm, mm. I think maybe if you kind of want any more kind of tips because I was in EuroPython, I helped organize. I was involved with organizing education panel, so we had someone remote call in who did a podcast about teaching, especially teaching coding in Python, and she herself is not a coder. Um, then you have someone from MakerMeet.ie who's based and they go around training teachers to teach
Great.
kids of all ages and doing especially analog stuff. It's not just all about really fancy shiny stuff. They use a lot of cardboards and teaching about STEM in general, and then they will bring in coding with computers and stuff like that. And it's all for ages. So teaching kids as well as teaching teachers as well, and how they can teach
Yes,
their classes. So that there was like so there was kind of and then there was others who were like I think lecturers in colleges when they're trying to teach coding for people coming into that kind of third level. So there was lots of people from different backgrounds teaching from different experiences, and also that their own backgrounds are very different, so they're not necessarily coders as well, but they realize that with code they can, it's creative coding, you can do a lot of things and open up a lot of doors. Maybe I can talk to you afterwards if you want. I can introduce you to those people. And if anyone like online as well have anything that you come across those experiences, especially when you try to teach kids, it's quite hard, especially different age levels. Um, but yeah, maybe we'll. Sorry, I was taking eating into Kira's time, so maybe we'll come back to general Q&A so people get a chance to ask all those questions, and we can actually
sure.
come to. So thank you again, Samira, and I'll get Kira ready. Um,
Good. Thank you.
thank you. Um, so hi, Kira.
Hey, how are you? That was
So
brilliant, Samira. Just like I have a 6-year-old, and I used to volunteer Coder Dojo, and that's like a lot of kids that are teenagers, young
yeah.
teenagers. But maybe I should get back into that. You've inspired me.
You sparked a lot of stuff, Samir. We'll have a good old chat after this. So will I pop up your slides for you then?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then you said you have, yeah, thanks so much. And I'll leave you to it. Here's Ciara Carey about supply chain security in open source software.
Hey, so today I'm going to talk about supply chain security and open source software. I'll start talking about what is the software supply chain, what does it mean for open source, what are the threats specific to open source software, and then I'll talk about the response from the industry, from government and NGOs, and and I'm going to hone in on some projects, MFA, SBOMs, and Sixdoor, and then I'll hopefully end with a demo if I have enough time. Okay. Hey, so I'm Ciara. I work in developer relations in Cloudsmith. It's a Northern Irish startup, a cloud native package repository service. So before this, I was a developer for over 10 years, and working for Cloudsmith has gotten me into the topic of supply chain security. They store all your built artifacts in any different type of format, like your Python wheels or Docker or whatever. And so a big part of that is managing and visualizing and helping you control your software supply chain. So what is the software supply chain? It's all the steps that go into developing and deploying your software. So it's your actual code, it's your third-party dependencies. That's where the open source generally is. Your scripts, your tests, your environmental variables, your IDEs, your plugins, your source code repositories, your CI/CD tools, and your package repository. So a supply chain attack targets your software supply chain by developer account takeover, by tricking you into downloading a malicious artifact, or by targeting vulnerabilities in your third-party dependencies. So using this avenue of attack, you can gain access to your systems or your customer systems. The attack surface is really vast when you think about everything that's involved in building your software, all your code, your dependencies, your tools. It's like they can get at you at any moment in that supply chain. SolarWinds early last year or late 2020 was like this big software supply chain attack, which was conducted by like state actors, and it brought a ton of attention to a poorly understood threat. That wasn't necessarily an attack on open source, but when they realized this attack and the potential for open source as an avenue, it brought a lot of attention to open source software. So open source software is source code that anyone can inspect, modify, and enhance. It's really positive. It's brought us projects like Docker, Kubernetes, Nginx, Linux, and it's like the innovation it brings us, ease of use, has like made, without it, innovation would be painfully slow. Over 80%, I think I've seen 90%, I've seen different statistics, but we'll say 80%, over 80% of software contains open source. A lot of developers consume open source from public repositories, like for Python, you'd use PyPy, or JavaScript, NPM, Docker Hub, and for Java, Maven Central. There's loads of them. And a massive part of securing your software supply chain requires securing open source software. So I want to make sure that you know proprietary software is not more secure than open source, but attackers can target vulnerabilities in open source, as they know they can like maximize the impact. They can reach many organizations with the same vulnerability. So the kind of threats that we're talking about in open source software are critical vulnerabilities in open source software. Like we're talking, I'm not sure if you heard about earlier this year, this vulnerability called Log4Shell, which was like rated 10 out of 10 in a vulnerability index. It's a vulnerability in a popular Java open source software called Log4Shell, and it's used in loads of critical systems. You know, like Java is used in banking, it's used in everything. And it exposed these systems to remote code execution. And the problem with critical vulnerabilities in open source software that are really popular is that like it takes a long time for everything to be updated. So it has like we like to say it has like a really long tail. So initially people update and update, but some other people don't know they're affected, and some people are using software that has the vulnerability inside their code somewhere. There was some survey saying there was a 2014 vulnerability called Heartbleed, which is in this package called OpenSSL. And it was patched straight away in 2014, but researchers found that it's still exploitable in 2020. So it has like, that's the problem with these critical vulnerabilities. It takes a long time for them to all get updated, maybe never. So another form of attack is by attacking the public repositories that are hosting a lot of this open source. They can try to trick you into downloading malicious packages. So you might have heard of typo squatting or dependency confusion attacks. Typo squatting is where they're like, the attackers try to, they post like a package that has a similar name to the one that you're using, and they're waiting for developers to make a typo. And another word, dependency confusion, uses sort of like the updating mechanics behind public and private repositories to kind of get you to download malicious packages. There's other type of attacks like maintainer-based attacks on like hijacked maintainer accounts, or another a huge form of, well, not of attack, but a huge vulnerability for people is if you're using abandoned software. This software is not going to be updated, and so you're vulnerable to these kind of older vulnerabilities that aren't patched. Oh, I didn't like move any of my slides along. Sorry about that. Okay, this is my open source one. This is good, isn't it? Okay, and then I did threats. Now, let's talk about the response. So there's been a huge response since the SolarWinds attack. And one of the big ones was from the administration, from President Biden issued an executive order to improve cybersecurity of the software supply chain. And one of the things that he mandated was that organizations selling to the US government are required to provide these SBOMs, these software bill of materials, which contain a list of all the software in your product. And they had other stuff too. But really, this executive order kickstarted a lot of activity. They even, like, there was a lot of meetings with the US government, bringing in all the stakeholders, the open source people, the tech people, and there's been a lot of talk and a lot of money put behind improving open source software, in particular for people creating software and for people consuming open source software. So it's not just the open source community, it's also for the consumers of software, which might be organizations, to let them know if they're vulnerable. There's different type of plans. There was like different type of projects. There's one project was like the open source software security mobilization plan, 150 million behind it. Another one was the Alpha Omega project, and there was like resources. There was money put into resourcing these open source projects, specifically that were critical projects. So critical project would be like, you know, it's used in a critical system, like in banking and energy and food production and hospitals, or it might be just an incredibly popular project, something like that. There is also an EU bug bounty program that's been updated this year to find bugs in open source software used by the EU policymakers and public bodies. There is a project called SigStore, which helps to improve security of open source software by helping them maintainers sign everything and for people to verify stuff. There's the Salsa framework, which shows you how to build projects securely. And there's this scorecards project by OpenSSF, which helps you rate different open source projects to see if they're considered safe or not. And there's been loads of tooling, including from OWASP. Now, so I'm going to highlight a few of the projects that were really will have a big influence. So one of them is the Great MFA project, which is like it's an open SSF initiative, which tries to promote multi-factor authentication amongst open source maintainers, especially of critical open source projects. It has backing from Google and GitHub, and they've they provide funding to give and distribute MFA tokens and like those YubiKeys to maintainers. So that's one project, and then for another project that helps promote MFA or different. So in these public repositories like PyPy, RubyGems, npm, and NuGet, they've all have new policies to enforce MFA amongst their maintainers. So PyPy says like the top 1% of critical projects have to have 2FA. npm, it's the top 100 npm packages, so they all have similar rules, but slightly different. It hasn't been totally plain sailing. There's been some people don't like it, and they feel like it puts too much effort on maintainers who also already have a lot of responsibilities. But I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, for people to be able to safely use these packages, but maintainers need support. So another initiative is this SBOMs everywhere. Oh, change the slide. So an SBOM is a software bill of materials. It's a machine-readable format to list out all the components and dependencies contained in a software project, and it can be used across all the industries that produce software. It should contain dependencies and their dependencies, like a graph, the version number, supplier, component name, identifiers, stuff like that. And SBOMs at their core, they answer the question, what is in my software? So having this accurate SBOM can quickly and automatically mitigate against the impact of critical vulnerabilities like Log4Shell. There's two main formats, SPDX and CycloneDX. They're both real. There's most of the tooling produces either one. And so when there is a new risk discovered or a new vulnerability discovered, you can use SBOMs to see whether you're affected, and you don't have to manually search all your products. It's huge for for big organizations. It's a big problem. You have like hundreds of products, you don't know what's in them. An SBOM can make that much easier. Another project is SigStore. It helps you sign. It's another way to secure open source software supply chain, and to encourage maintainers to sign more things. So it helps you trust an artifact is built by who you think it's built by. I suppose the problem with signing stuff for open source people in the past has been that it's difficult to manage the keys, and we need to make this simpler. And SigStore aims to make it easy for developers to sign, verify, and protect open source. Oh, I never moved the slide again. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to quickly do a demo. So to show how you could use an SBOM. So we're saying SBOMs can be used to help you react to vulnerabilities in open source. When a major new vulnerability is discovered, you can use an SBOM to determine if you're vulnerable rather than having to manually search and analyze all your products, just like I said. So I'm going to use, the tooling I'm going to use is SigStore for signing the image, and also using it to attach the SBOM to the image. Then I'm going to use SIF. I'm going to use SIF to generate the SBOM. It's open source from Anchor, and another open source tool from Anchor is Gripe. And this Docker image is going to be hosted on Cloudsmith, which is recently integrated with SigStore tooling. So I'll run through this example workflow using Cloudsmith and Anchor's open source tooling, demonstrate how to sign images, generate, attach, and verify SBOMs, and then continuously scan SBOMs for new vulnerabilities. And if I get a vulnerability above a certain level, we can quarantine that image so it can't be deployed or downloaded. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Now, okay. So I'll just show you my repository first. So this is the CloudSplit repository, and I've posted my my image here. This is a Docker image. And when I attach the cosigned signature, which will sign this image, you'll see more information about it here. I already posted it to CloudSplit because it took a bit in order to get this done in 15 minutes. I don't even know if I'm going to do that. So I had to use a few shortcuts. Okay. Before I've already done a few things. So if you wanted to generate your key pair, I already have a key pair, but you would use cosign generate key pair. It's really simple. And I'll just show you the keys that I have here. So I've generated my key pair, and I have this private key and this public key. I've already pushed my image, but I'm just going to show you some of those. So I tagged the image. This is an image from a few weeks ago from Ruby. And I've pushed it to CloudSplit. It should be really fast here because it's already up there. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to assign this image using cosign. So I'm using my private key, and I'm attaching it to my image here. So I'll put in my password. Okay, so it's attaching the signature to my CloudSplit repository, and we should have it here now. So you can see here this new signature has been attached to it. But we can attach, like I was saying before, we want to attach our SBOM to it as well. So the SBOM will be our list of everything that's in that, all the software in that image. So, before I'll show you, you can verify it as well. So I'm using my public key. This is wrong. What's it saying? Oh, this thing here. Okay, I want to verify that this image has been signed, and I'm using the public key in order to do that. So I should get a verify by Ciara here or whatever. So there you go. Verification successful. So now I'm going to generate my SBOM. And to generate my SBOM, I'm using Sift tool from Anchor. It's open source. And all I have to do is sift my image, and I want it to output in this particular SBOM format. And then I'm sending that to this file here. Now, so it's analyzing the image. And it's outputted it to this file here. I'll just open. Now, this is an SBOM. It's not very easy to read. There is a machine readable format from Sift to kind of help people see it. So now I want to attach it to my my image hosted on CloudSplit. And to do that, I'm using cosign tooling. So I'm saying, and how I'm attaching it is I'm attaching it as an assigned attestation. It's like it's a way to attach like a policy, like you're attaching your SBOM, and your it's also signed. So you need more. Okay, great. So we should see this on my repository now. So we already have our signature for the image, but I also want my signed attestation that contains the SBOM. And here this is a new attestation, and that will contain the SBOM. Okay, so let's verify this SBOM. All good. It was verifying this attestation proves that I am the person that attached this to this image, and that should add trust to it. So now I'm just extracting this attestation, and I'm extracting out the SBOM from the payload. Now, the next thing I want to do is to actually look for vulnerabilities in the SBOM. This is actually a nice thing to do because scanning for vulnerabilities in an image takes a certain amount of time, and SBOM is in this like flat, machine-readable format, and so it should be way quicker than looking for vulnerabilities in an image. Okay, and the tool I'm using to do this is Gripe. It's another Anchor open source tooling. And then I'm just pointing it to my, I'm pointing it to the SBOM that I've just outputted. And I'm also saying I want you to fail if a vulnerability is greater than critical. So this should have critical vulnerabilities, so it should fail. Yay! No, I don't know that I'm delighted I have a vulnerability, but it did fail. And then the next step I'm going to do is to actually stop this from being deployed. And I'm doing that using a Cloudsmith feature for our artifact repository called quarantining. So first I have to get the identity of the package in question using the Cloudsmith CLI. And then I'm going to use the Cloudsmith CLI to quarantine it. Okay, now if I go back to my repository, I'm going to show you here that I can't download that. So I can't download it through the APIs, I can't download it through the CLI. It's quarantined, and so it can't be deployed to infrastructure or downloaded to customers, which is a great way to protect you from having vulnerabilities out in the wild. So that's the full workflow. I know I went through a lot there, and I just want to show, if you're interested, I have this workflow up on GitHub. I have my build and publish workflow here. We'll show you how to sign an image, create SBOM, sign that SBOM, even sign a vulnerability report. And then also you have a nightly action to continuously scan this image for new vulnerabilities, which is the important thing. And then decide if it has a certain level of vulnerabilities to quarantine that image. So I'll put that in the show notes or something like that. So I'll go back to my slides. I think the last thing it says is questions. So yes. So that is it. Any questions? So I suppose the whole thing is there's a lot of activity around securing open source software because nearly all software contains open source. And by using SBOMs, by using two-factor authentication, we should be able to help secure our software supply chains. That's it.
Sorry about that. That was me and my co-producing team having problems clicking buttons and overlapping. So we're gonna can we bring in Samira as well?
Hey.
Hi Samira. That was fun. A lot of bouncing about with the pictures. But yeah, thank you, Ciara. That was I was like a whole area that was like that while I'm coding, there's this whole other area about security that is like forming that I like completely opened my eyes.
Because the problem is, like, when you're a developer, because I was a developer for years, and like you don't want to make a mistake. You do care about security, but it's not like what you're doing day to day. So really, you need tools that where this is automatically worked into your workflow. Because if every 2 weeks you have to deliver a feature, whatever, that's what you're working on, and security is an afterthought. And if you want secure software, you need to make these tools automatic and not to hold back the developer.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to install packages, right? That you even,
know.
as you mentioned something about like, I think this was actually, I remember Michael mentioned this in Europe, talking to people when they're installing packages, like don't ever just click on the link. You actually just look up the name of the package and just go to, like say PyPy, just even go to the page, the project page, and look at it, and then copy what is the actual thing you use to install. Because you could just say, the autocomplete is amazing, because we're so lazy, until people started, because they can introduce a lot of these typos packages and you don't know because you're so fast. You just type complete, hit return, and by the time you know it, you go, oh, I don't think that was the package it was meant to install, and things have happened by then, I think that just kind of came into mind when as you're talking
yeah,
about it,
exactly. It's like all
because
these npm install is so easy. It's
yeah,
actually
yeah,
quite powerful what
yeah.
you're
It's
actually
just
doing.
make it easy for people to get into, but also it's very easy to make a mistake and install something that can put in a backdoor or anything as a
Yeah, and
state.
that's
But
the fine line because the whole thing about open source and why npm was so like it, it was so amazing is because it was really easy to push up your package and to use packages and to make these little small packages, and you put a lot of criteria on that, it'll stop that innovation, but at the same time there's a huge problem that we need to fix.
yeah, I think this needs to be mentioned more in various different kind of meetups and not just conferences, because not everyone is able to go to conferences. But really, thank you for kind of opening. Like I am aware, but because for me, I'm working on my own stuff, but I'm sure as people are working on different projects and they found a new solution with this amazing tool, and you just like do this, that, and the other, and it's like magically everything works, and then you just hope everything is secure because it's that third party. It's like we rely so much on third party stuff right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So thank you for like eye opening kind of presentation, but because it just gets you thinking. Um, I think we do have a couple of questions for Samira actually from earlier on. Um, okay, thanks. So, yeah, what type of computer hardware and software was Chantal using? Any type of computer OS that makes it easier for kids? I was.
Uh, at that moment, Shahkol is the right name. Shahkol using Mac OS, but it wasn't really kids friendly. And her first teacher using terminal, which wasn't best idea for that poor girl. So we used VS Code and tried to customize VS Code, but during the time she learned to how to deal with new stuff, new extension. But unfortunately, we don't have any OS customized for
Mm,
kids in Linux distribution. There
mm.
isn't.
I think there was a second one. For learning algorithms, logic theory, does she think that can be learned iteratively? Vicky, wake up! As kids and teenagers learn to code and practice more.
Yes, at that point, honestly, I used shoes the example, and I taught her to think if all of shoes is going out of her room, she needs to go and pick every single time a shoes. So literally used every daily routine to teach her to understand the library. I used bookshelves to teach her for list. I
Mm-hmm.
use the sorting closet to sorting algorithm. I use the shoes example to learn for and iterative algorithm. I teach Shahkal based on daily example. It was
Mm-hmm.
really time consuming, but it
Mm-hmm.
worked. Right now, Shahkal can be decided in the best decision. If the statement doesn't approve, what else? At
Mm-hmm.
least right now she couldn't understand. She could understand, but at that moment it was really hard. But daily life, every time is answer. You
Mm-hmm.
can look at the environment and understand how
Mm-hmm.
people manage their daily life. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you're gonna find a lot of examples.
I think what comes something that popped into my head is Code Week EU. They have they do an annual. I think it's probably for the whole year, but it's kind of every country, a lot of countries participate, but they have a lot of resources for all ages to learn about coding, even analog ways about how to code. Because that's what I did. I was at a library and they had no computers. I said, I'll teach you coding, but no with no computers because I found this resource on Code Week EU because it's all part of that part of Code Week EU. And I was literally printing out arrows straight on, turn right, So that was
Oh,
teaching them loops. So we had them draw pictures of whatever they wanted, their house or a monument, and then we have a start, and then we form them into groups, and they have to figure out how to get. There's only certain. It's a grid system, so they have to figure out how to get to their destination, the fastest, the most optimal way. So that was like a big, so it was like all ages can participate, and plus it was a lot of exercise was done because they were running back and forth, and there was some cheating going on because they were supposed to put back the sheets and take them when needed, but they were like grabbing it because they were in the moment. But it was a lot of fun because it teaches them to think about, how to get somewhere, and from basic instructions, and they didn't realize they were doing coding. They didn't realize there was like looping. They didn't realize there was like, if this, then you go there, or if there's an obstacle or something like that. So that was one thing, that when you were saying like using something that is not actually using a computer, that was my experience, and it was actually a lot of fun. Like everyone was able to participate and understand coding, that is not all just completely just ones and zeros and lots of complicated text and a black terminal screen with uh yeah,
it was unfair to
yeah,
start a terminal
yeah.
for that poor girls.
But yeah, I totally agree. We need resources. I think even from the education panel that they were talking, that everyone had lots of great places to find all this stuff from, because they're involved with a lot of various different coding weeks and their own initiatives, and then their own college or own school stuff, and then whatever it is. But that the resources are all over, and they said we should really have somewhere. I couldn't even keep up with the resources. I just have to go. I have to find a video when they come when edited cut comes out. um when that comes out, I have to go through and sit through and find all the notes and all the things that they mentioned. So I will share that with everyone when we get there, when it comes out as well. Oh, we have two questions. Is this is there any more questions? Oh, nope. I think Ciara, thanks. I will share the your GitHub repo to folks. That link, I'll do a post event write up as well. And if there's anything, Samira, you want me to share as well, or any kind of requests and stuff, let me know, and I'll post it in the post event message. I think, yeah, Mickey also mentioned there is also another editor that you can use online. Um, that is called MU editor, or Code with Mu, and it's you can actually connect that with electronics as well, and it's made to, it supports lots of different. I think like it has Python, and then it has I think and then it connects to, like, if you have any kind of Raspberry Pis and things like that, you can experiment with that as well. And they were actually hacking at that on sprints just last weekend. I didn't get a chance to go over, but I know a whole bunch of them were trying to improve it and fix bugs and stuff. But there was, as I said, there's so many resources. I will try and share that video out when and connect it up with this evening's talk as well. So if there's nothing, oh, thank you. I think Michael has shared Ciara's links to the YouTube chat as well for folks. But if there's any last kind of final words from folks here,
No,
no,
thank you for having me. Thanks
yeah.
for
Yeah, thank you both.
great.
Thank you both, Ciara and Samira, for speaking this evening, and apologies for Aatiya for not being available this evening. So hopefully we can have her back next time in an upcoming event. As I said, next month we have 2 talks, and the meetup page is already been announced, and it'll be updated with the speaker info. But and that will also be a virtual event. But the in-person event that possibly I'm kind of working on will be in September, and I will update Meetup with details and the venue as well. It'll be in the evening time, and I'll be bringing along this gigantic book. If you don't know what it is, it's Fluent Python by Luciano Ramalho. This is the second book that didn't get raffled off, but it was from last week, and it's huge. I didn't realize it was. I was so like I laughed and I said, "Wow, I'm so used to digital books. When I see an actual book, this is like a Bible. It's huge." So just to prepare people, if I'm going to be raffling this in September, bring a bag with you. That's all I can say. It's so thank you again to both of you this evening, and thank you to everyone who's been with us this evening. Thank you to Michael and Leigh for helping out, as well for great support, and I hope to see you next month. Bye.
Bye.